I mean, we're mostly black, but there's other backgrounds in.
And then there's me, the white Brit. They call me spicy Italian. I am half Italian, and I season my
You're
food.
spicy
Chicken
white.
should never be. I mean, salt and pepper are not spices. I just want to make that very fucking clear. Not spices.
Welcome to Ray's Corner. On today's show, in the last show of this season, I have a very lovely friend of mine from across the sea. She writes contemporary romance, erotic romance, and straight up erotica. She also edits. She's a PhD student. There's so many things that Allie is talented with, and I'm like, I can't name them all. I'm sure I forgot quite a few things, but anyway, I would like to introduce Allie Williams, who also writes as Ellie Rose, and we're going to talk about all of that and how that came how that came about, and so much more. So I hope y'all are ready. It is June. I can't believe it's already June. Is that crazy or is that me?
This comes out on the summer solstice as well, or like on the 21st, 20th.
Oh my.
Oh yeah. Y'all don't really like when Ray and I first started. I'm a disaster already. When we first started talking, there was a lot of tarot stuff. There was a lot of like using spirituality as a way of like engaging with writing and stuff. And there was a group of us, and one full moon,
Oh,
we all manifested a couple of different things, and the entire world kind of came crashing down like a week later. Like you,
oh yeah.
I was unsure about like a business opportunity, and the entire thing came crashing to the ground. And we were like, oh, we may have girl bossed a little too close to the sun here.
Yeah, we
Here.
did. Yeah,
So
we
this,
did.
so
Ooh,
this coming
okay.
out on solstice is like, oh,
Yes. And it's my birthday month.
with
So
this
I love
Scorpio that
to.
you are.
So I'm really excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for
Oh,
having me. I'm well
and this
excited
is
to be here.
exciting. This is exciting. So we'll get in. First off, thanks for coming to the corner. Um,
Thanks
I
for
want
having
to
me.
right. I appreciate you coming on though, because I can be like, "Hey, do you want to come on?" You can be like, "No, I'm good." So thank you for
And
actually.
we both know that I say yes to most things. It's the reason I live in burnout. Like,
We all talk about that because
yeah.
self-care is important, but I ain't gonna come at you with that right away. I'll ease us into it, and you'll be like, "Really, really, just throw it at me, huh?" Okay.
Oh.
Okay, so I kind of want to start with the fact that you have these two different pen names that you write down. Your actual name and then a pen name that you created. What kind of brought you to creating Ellie Rose, and why did you feel that it was so important to separate her from Allie because of the writing style, basically? But like, what was the big draw for creating Ellie and how we got here?
So when I started, I two kind of things: erotic romance and paranormal romance as well.
Hmm. Forgot
College
about
and
that one.
Flames, yeah.
Told you I
Uh,
was going to say something.
so good. So yeah, so I started with erotic romance and paranormal romance. Really, I'm like I wrote like there. I have a pile of books, and I don't have the book that I wanted. Cool. There's a book called Softest Kinksters. It's one.
Uh-huh.
It was the first paperback I released, and it was a collection of short stories, all in sort of close third person, no names, super kinky. Like it looks at everything from pet play to hypno kink to orgasm denial, shibari. You name it, I've probably written it. Um,
Probably.
and it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. But as I was writing more and more, I started hanging out with a load of different authors and discovered a subgenre of erotic romance that's referred to as little romance. And
Mhm.
it's basically daddy or mummy kink. Um, Now, Ali Williams is it's not exactly my legal name, but it's the name I go by both my academic work, my editing, etc. It's also the name that my family have. And I wasn't sure how comfortable I was with my parents reading about daddy or mummy cake, especially considering growing up, that's what I called them. And I was like, No, no, I'm not sure. And my family, who I hope none of whom are listening to this. If you are, please go away. This is not the space for
Not
you.
for y'all. It's not for y'all.
Not for you. Go away. So I felt like I needed a different branding for
Mhm,
those kind of romances. They are at the moment they're very short, usually about between sort of 10 and 20,000 words.
mhm.
Sometimes a little bit shorter, sometimes a little bit longer. I just had a book come out in May, Mandy's Little Mother's Day, which is really cute. It's 35,000 words, which is the longest I've read in a long time.
That is
Uh,
pretty long.
and it hit number 1 in lesbian fiction on Amazon and number 5 in lesbian romance. And I literally spent the entire day walking around going, I am the top lesbian. Get a load of me. My brother was like, "You are top leser." I was like, "Yes, I am. Yes, I am." Uh,
Ooh, okay, hold on. I don't mean to laugh, but it's just funny because top, les in the
oh,
same sentence is
rude!
hilarious for you. Um, that's a whole
Slander.
other conversation.
Absolute slander. Okay, number 1 lesbian. Let's say number 1 lesbian. Screw you, Ray.
Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. I had to throw that out because
No, no,
we are
legit.
friends, I know, but we
Totally
ain't
legit.
gonna go that route. Oh.
No, we're not. Rude. Um, but as a result, I kind of split off Ali and Ellie, and sort of and also like I had a big breakup about 2 years ago, like big breakup. Like you and like some of our other author friends spent a long time on Zoom. Like I would, it was a bad breakup. It wasn't the person wasn't very nice, and there was a lot of me going to sleep with you guys all on Zoom because the time difference is such. And I would literally, I'd mute myself so you didn't hear the snoring, and I'd fall asleep. And it took me a while to get back into having a normal sleeping pattern because I used to wake up every hour. And so I'd wake up and you'd all be there chatting. And it was really, it felt really safe. And that was the point when I wrote like Value and Visions, which is a paranormal, my first sapphic, like full length sapphic romance
Mhm.
about a warrior princess, one of Boudica's daughters, and an Italian British librarian turned oracle. And they fall in love, and I thought it was all going to be enemies to lovers. Nope, no, they are pretty much all over each other by like chapter 2, like the best of friends. It's ridiculously adorable.
Like, this is
I've given
not what
up
I
on I've
expected.
given up on enemies to lovers or rivals to lovers because it turns out I just don't like writing them. My characters go through enough trauma without having to hate each other as well. Like, no, none of that, thank you. Um, and the whole book was a book of grief. It was an intense book. It's one of my favorite books. It's got some of my favorite sections in it. It's really emotional. I'm not sure if it's my best book, but it's a good book. But then after that, I was like, I need a break from this shit. Like I these characters, this world I've built, it's God touched universe. It's so intense and it's so bound up in everything that's happened to me. I need to take some time. And it was at that point that I pitched Mandy's Little Mother's Day to Alyssa Hart, who runs the Rawhide Ranch series, which is mainly a little series. They have an erotic romance sort of sub series. Um,
And
I
so,
pitched.
just for those who are unaware, we're talking about both pen
Oh,
names here. So,
yes.
Value and Visions is Allie Williams, and Mandy's Little Brunch is Ellie Rose, and it's how we got there. So, just for timeline purposes.
Yes, thank you. And in Mandy, it was at a point when I didn't think, and it was before I published any Ellie books. Value and Visions came out in September, and in November I started publishing my Ellie short stories. I'll come to that in a sec. Um, I didn't. I mean, you saw me at that point. I thought I was too much all the time. I didn't trust that my friends were fed up of me being upset about a 2-year relationship breaking up. Um, None of my friends were pissed off or bored of it. They were like, "Ali, dude, it's fine." Um, I didn't think. I didn't think I would ever. I thought I was unlovable. I thought I was unlovable. And so when I pitched Mandy, I pitched it I pitched a sapphic romance. Sapphic, for those of you who don't know, is like a bit like a Killian for MM. It refers to FF, but it's an inclusive term that takes it into account because lesfic is great, but not all women who love other women are lesbians. So it includes lesbians, bisexual women, pansexual women, but it's also inclusive of non-binary femmes, if they so wish to be included in that space, and also trans women, obviously, because trans women are women. So I pitched this sapphic book, and it was, I think, the strongest manifestation I've ever done. This pitching of the book and what I wanted from it.
Mhm.
And I didn't write it until earlier this year. So that was 2022, and I wrote it earlier this year. And by the time I came to write it, everything I dreamed for myself, accepting, finding a community who accepted my fully autistic self, community who was fine with my demisexuality, who didn't think I was too weird or too much, who, like, creating a space, growth, healing, and then love. I fell in love with my best friend. Uh, not gonna get
No, cry. No, you're fine to cry.
I fell in love with my best friend. And I stepped into my sapphic dyke era. And I use the word dyke like quite deliberately because I am I'm very fucking femme. Very, very femme. But I use the word dyke because of the activist history that it has behind it. Like, as a shorthand, if you turn around and say you're a dyke, people immediately know that you're sapphic. Like, that's a very clear term. Means you're gay for pussy. I don't have to like do any kind of, oh, I'm a sapphic bisexual. People know what you mean when you use the word dyke. But also the activist history and the history that is there. Like, I want a connection. Like, I'm choosing very deliberately to make a connection with sapphics who have come before me as activists, and expanding that understanding of the word dyke, I think, is something that I'm kind of trying to do. I had a whole thing in therapy with my therapist about it the other week. We were talking about, like, what does it mean? My therapist is queer as fuck, so it means that I can literally go, hey, so I want to discuss the word dyke in this session. And they're like, yeah. So yeah, I stepped into my sapphic dyke era. And when I started writing the Ellie books, they were all queer. So there are some MF queer, there's some MM, FF, non-binary, trans rep. I have a T for T book coming out in May. In
Like
June,
that for folks who don't know.
yeah, and in June there's a. Oh, I've got so many releases in June. We'll come back to that. Like, it's ridiculous. I may, yeah, I may have overdone it again. But Ray yells at me on a regular basis about the number of releases I give myself.
Yeah, we gonna get to the fact that
Yeah.
you don't calm down ever.
No, no, I don't.
Even
I
when
was
you
gonna
take a
say yes, I
vacation, you
do.
come back even harder. Let's be for real.
Yeah. But yeah, so Ellie was an escape. Ellie is completely fluffy. Mandy is probably slightly more hard hitting. It's a really fluffy book. It was emotionally really difficult to write because I wrote a lot of my trauma into it. She has the therapy session on page at the Rawhide Ranch. And she turns up and she is scared of her own shadow. She thinks she's too much all the time. She's trying to stop herself from stimming. She's hiding who she really is because she doesn't trust that anyone will accept her. And by the end of the book, she's well on her way to embracing all of that. She's on her healing journey. So writing it was really difficult because when I writing the beginning felt like writing who I was 2 years ago, like traumatized and feeling slightly broken and not really knowing what I wanted from life, not wanting anything from life, just being like, no, screw love, can't be dealing with that. Of course, that never lasted long because it's me.
Hopeless
Um,
romantic, but in the best way, I
oh
suppose.
god, yeah. Um, so yeah, Ellie became a bit of an escape, and a big part of it was not wanting to cross the streams, as they say, Ghostbusters style. Like, I didn't want to. Now it's a bit different. Now I promote all my Ellie books as Ellie. Um, I just don't always promote my Ellie books as Ellie.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I do it. So I have two sort of Facebook profiles, one as Ali Williams and one as Ellie Rose, Ali Williams, in one big thing. And that's where I do all my marketing because most of my Ellie readers know about, all my Ellie readers know about Ali. I just don't necessarily need my Ellie readers. Well, no, I don't need my family to know about Ellie. That's the key thing here. And also, I don't feel like explaining myself like in like certain areas of academia as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I in the States, it's Pride Month in June.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
um, I think that I had this conversation with a couple of people about just being authentic in your writing and like how we insert ourselves into our writing, intentionally or otherwise. And
Mm,
so talking about how Ellie came about was very much like it was a cathartic thing for you because you needed an escape from the situation that you were dealing with at the time, the way you felt about yourself, the life
mm.
and at that moment. Do you feel that it was a healing journey for you and not just for your characters as you have written more and more stories as Ellie?
Absolutely. When reading through the Ellie books in particular, because they are so short, I can read one and go, oh yeah, that's what I was working on in therapy that week. Like I can tell you exactly. Like there is a clear, not necessarily a journey of healing in the character. There's always a journey of healing in my characters, but like the different things that they're working on is also kind of the things that I'm working on. That's not saying my characters are me, they're not.
Mhm.
Um, Mandy is probably closer to me than most of my characters, just because she has my trauma. Um, but yeah, no, definitely it became a healing journey. And one of the things that has come out of it in the last couple of years, because I started with like, I wanted to write a mixed. So as Ellie, the two series I have out at the moment, although I have a new series coming out soon, um, are called Stuffy Hospital and Stuffy Hospital London. And it's basically each of them is basically set in a company where they repair old bears and old stuffies. Some of the characters design them, some of them accountants or whatever, but like when you start into the world, like you get to meet all the people who work in this business. It's super cute, super fun, very fluffy. Um, and why did I say that? I don't know.
No, because I can't stay on track either. No, we were
So
talking about the healing journey and how
yes,
characters
yeah. So
reflect yourself in your characters.
I wanted to write things that felt light, that felt fluffy, but also were really truthful and authentic. Um, almost, I think in every single Ellie book, at least one of the main characters is neurodiverse. Um,
Mhm.
I've kind of gone on this journey from a couple of years ago, realizing I probably had ADHD to about 2 years ago, going, "Oh, I think I might be autistic," and all my friends going, "Yes." I mean, yes. And now I've officially been like referred for an official diagnosis, which in the UK can take up to 4 years to be seen for a yeah, yeah.
No, I'm not surprised.
But
It's a process here too.
but the nice thing about it is, even though the referral takes long, is once I've got the referral, I'm officially covered by the Equalities Act. The 2010 Equalities Act doesn't require you to have an official diagnosis in order for work to have to give recommend reasonable make reasonable accommodations at work.
Accommodation.
Yeah, which is really nice. So that's been quite good. They're buying me like noise cancelling headphones for when I'm in the big office that I hate because there are so many people. Yeah.
Listen, I use them at work too, and I don't think my coworkers get it. Way off topic, but like I will put them in, and then someone will be like, "Hey, hey, hey," and I'm like, "Oh, my bad, what?" And they're like, "Did
Oh,
you?"
these are big overphone
Oh
ones.
yeah, I didn't. Well, because I don't have a diagnosis here. Also, I'm just like I can't focus. Like if people are talking, I get very distracted very easily. So I bought some because I sit next to like the big bosses, so they have a
Yeah,
lot of conversations throughout the day. They'll walk off if it's like really important and nobody
yeah,
needs to know type stuff, but like
yeah,
they're constantly talking. I'm like, I can't focus, I can't work, so I completely understand.
yeah.
That's the topic for another time. But I'm
Yeah,
glad that
it's
they're accommodating you.
yeah.
That's really important.
So it's really good. So all my characters have either autism, or most of my characters have either autism or ADHD, and sometimes both. Um, and A Little's Unicorn, which is the first Stuffy Hospital book, was the first time I'd ever consciously written a character who had autism, and it was it's a really interesting journey. It's also really interesting because sometimes reviewers are like, "Oh, this isn't what autism is like," and I'm like, "Let me tell you, yes, it is. It's my experience as an autistic woman. I can trust me, it is." Um, but it is really, so that was really interesting. Like being that kind of that authentic, and then I started writing queer women in this series, like women loving women, sapphics, and it did really well. One of my most popular books in that series is A Little's Lion, and we have a stone top non-binary ZZ, which is like the equivalent of a daddy or a mummy, um, and a femme sort of lesbian little. Uh, and I was surprised at how popular it was. One of the things I really like about little readers is that they don't actually care about the pairings. How a lot of like traditional romance readers will be like, oh no, I read MF or I read FF or I read MM. They don't care as long as they get the fluffy feel, as long as they get the feels that they want. They have followed me and through MM, FF, F non-binary, non-binary F, trans character, like just followed me throughout. That's been really amazing. And it actually gave me the big impetus that I needed to make a big change. So from this summer, I will only be releasing sapphic books going forward, both pen names. There are a couple of characters who probably need their own books from like Value and Visions, Forged in Flames, who might get their books at some point. I'm not sure at this particular moment. But at the moment, yeah, no, I'm going fully sapphic. So all the trans women, cis women, and femme non-binaries, like, and I feel really good about it. Like that whole thing you were saying about like authenticness.
Yeah.
Authenticness, is that even a word? I
Authenticity.
should, I should know as an editor. Whoops.
Being
Uh,
authentic.
authenticity. It's felt really important as I write more and more. Um, one of my friends, like my newer friends, like this new community I've made since the breakup, read Forged in Flames because they're like, oh, let me read one of your books. I was like, oh, well, this is the first one in the like you. I don't think you necessarily want to read all the daddy kink shit, but like here is a book that is like hot, and there's dragons and shagging and magic and ancient goddesses. I will explain more about the God's Touch universe in a bit because it's expanding. Oh, so excited. And they came back to me afterwards and they're like, Abby, I was like, yeah. And they're like, why have you put all these gay women in relationships with men? I was like, oh shit. It's because that was what I was living when I wrote it. And I
Mhm.
didn't realize, like, I'm really fucking gay. Like really gay. And
The deadpan, I'm sorry.
I
Okay.
didn't know. I didn't know how gay I was. I'm not sure how. Like, I knew I was bi, but
Yeah.
I thought I was maybe like 60-40 towards guys. No, no. These days I take the ABCD approach. Anyone but cis dudes. Um, water break. And that's not because all cis dudes are assholes. I have cis male
But
friends who
you
are
had your
wonderful people. But also, there's a lot of work. No, no, thank you. No, thank you. It's just not my preference. And also I'm very demisexual. So which is also something I discovered more and more is that actually like I really need a connection with someone to want to engage in anything. And also like I was poly for a bit, I was solo poly for a bit, because I was really interested in the way that we end up in relationships. And this happens in romance. It's made me think about how I structure my romances and what happy ever afters look like.
Mhm.
Like they call it the relationship escalator. You jump on it and then you ride it to the top, and everyone is taking the same route. You meet someone, you fall in love, you get married, you buy a home, you have babies. Boom. It's just kind of terrifying. But also like trying solo poly made me realize that although my nervous system isn't really made for it, it's not really my thing. I really liked the conscious choosing of how you want your relationship to go, like making something for yourself.
Mhm.
Um, and it's one of the things that the choice I made at the end of Mandy's book is most of the book happens over the process of a week, and then the epilogue is a month later. I don't have them move in together at the end of the first book. It's not a happily for now, it's a happily ever after. But and you kind of find out where they're going to go and how they're going to do it, and they will move in together later, but like it's also about this journey. Like not every relationship has to end with marriage and babies, particularly if they're queer relationships. I mean, marriage and babies is also perfectly fine for queer relationships, but it doesn't have to be. And working out that as Demi and like consciously making those decisions has really informed the way that I think about romance and the decisions my characters make. I don't want them to do something because they feel they have to. I want them to consider the options and then consciously choose to do something. There's a really excellent writer, may their memory be a blessing, called Zan West or Corey Alexander. They were in the community. They were phenomenal. They wrote a book called 8 Kinky Nights, which is one of my favorite romances of all time. It's unreal. When I saw the cover for the first time, I cried because I was like, shit, that's how I want to
Really,
feel.
really pretty.
It's
And
beautiful.
grabs you too. Yeah.
I saw it and I cried because I was like, that's how I want to feel. And I realized the other day that that is how I feel with my girlfriend, my partner. She's just like the best. But the first short story I have ever had published is the first short story in the Softest Kinksters anthology. The main
Under,
character, pardon?
under Allie Williams.
Oh, and thank you. Under Ellie Williams, the main character, years before the book, before the story is set, was involved in a car accident. This is the one you haven't read. Yeah. And I'd written it, and it hadn't occurred to me to use a content note for the car accident because it hadn't. I'd all the kink stuff that was in there, all the sex stuff, all of that was in there. It just this hadn't occurred to me, and we had a really good conversation about it. Because what happens is she leaves this date, which is going amazingly, and she goes to go home, and she gets in the car, and she sees that it's raining, and like I originally had a flashback on page, and I changed that because it wasn't necessary. Like you could have the impact of the flashback without actually having a flashback on page, which it could be triggering for readers. And I had her basically originally panic. Yeah, I basically had her panic and run back to his flat. And Corey pointed out to me that that is possible. That is possible. However, if they genuinely have PTSD or CPTSD, the likelihood is they would have been in therapy and they will have lots of different options available to them. What is actually far more powerful as a romance narrative is having that heroine think about the options available to her, stay in the car, go into a local pub and wait it out, go to a local newsagent and call her friend to come pick her up, and the option to go back to this guy's flat and have their date. But like, and ask if she can stay there till the storm is over. Having her consider all of those options and then actively choose to be vulnerable rather than just being like, I don't have a choice, I'm going to be vulnerable with you, made it so much more powerful. I wouldn't have written that if they hadn't suggested it. That the notes they gave me on that story I still have saved because they gave me loads of resources, and it wasn't till after they'd passed that I actually realized that I had started using them for myself and my own trauma. Their work on trauma, their just work in general was amazing. Corey Alexander, they wrote as Zan West, Xan West. I would thoroughly recommend checking their books out. Yeah, it's so making those conscious decisions, having characters make conscious decisions. I realized that for me, I can't have my characters fall in love until they have both been vulnerable with the other one. Until that point, it's lust, it's fancying, it's that frisson of excitement. But until they truly are vulnerable with the other person, and that other person cares for them, cherishes them, looks out for them when they're feeling vulnerable, that doesn't take advantage of it, that is the point where my characters fall in love. They need that. That's the turning point for me in any of my romances. Sometimes it happens a lot sooner than you'd expect it. Sometimes it happens a lot later. Usually it's towards the beginning of the book because I like my characters to fall in love and us to see them falling in love and not just be like, oh, okay, they're in love now, happy ever after. I'd like to see like the fallout and like what happens after they're falling for each other. Um, yeah. Oh god, that was a long answer to a question that I've forgotten.
The point is, well, because
Yeah,
we can like segue off into other topics as we're answering a question because it makes us think of something else. So it wasn't
yeah,
really long-winded, and you answered multiple questions that I planned on asking. So it's not a problem.
excellent.
You would have been answering it anyway. um, as far as um the amount of representation that you have in the books, you have a lot of disability rep, queer rep, kink. Um, you talk about things that are
Can
happening
I
in
just clarify that when we say disability rep, we're talking specifically about neurodiversity
yes.
because that is my experience and it is a form of disability and I don't have enough experience with other forms of disability at the moment to write them to feel comfortable telling those stories. I also write queer experiences that are not my own,
Yeah.
but I feel that there is an umbrella, a queer umbrella. Um, I feel comfortable writing most of those, but also I have a lot of friends who are trans and non-binary. So I check with them. I use sensitivity readers. I ask questions. I've got a couple of friends who I've gone, "Hi, can I ask you a really inappropriate question?" They're like, "Always, always." Um,
Allie, what? Inappropriate?
but also like it's one of the things I wanted to clarify. Like, not all those experiences are my experiences, but usually
Yeah.
when I write experience that's not my own, I try and make sure that I promote other authors whose experience it is.
Mhm.
Um, and I also, at the moment, all my main characters are white because, I mean, you can see I'm flipping translucent. Um, yeah. But also, like, there is a lived experience
Yeah.
being a person of color, a black person, indigenous, First Nations, Asian, the
All of
whole
everything under the umbrella.
everything. Um, there is a lived experience of being visibly othered in society that I don't have. I don't even really have it as a queer woman. Like more now when I walk down the street holding hands with my girlfriend, but also a lot of people look at me and think I'm straight. I am not. I open my mouth and they're like, "Ah, yes, chaotic bisexual." Um, but like, I am constantly coming up, but I am not visibly visibly othered is not quite the right phrasing, but you know what I mean. And therefore, I don't see why I would write those stories. Those stories don't feel like mine to tell at the moment. So yeah, diversity. But the reason I feel comfortable writing under the queer umbrella is because I am queer. In the same way that, for example, Talia Hibbert, phenomenal author, has written Black characters and South Asian characters. And even though South Asian experience is not the same as her experience as a Black person, um, there's a commonality in some of the experiences. But yeah, so the commonality, queer commonality, is the reason why I feel comfortable writing experiences that aren't my own. Does that make sense? I don't know. I feel
Yeah,
like
no, that's actually something, when I had my chat with, Carmen Lee,
mm,
um, Carmen writes mostly Black people, but there are also, multicultural and interracial relationships that are happening as side characters or the main
mm,
story. So you get some Korean, you get some in some of the characters, you get other, personalities and backgrounds, and it's like this Carmen is Black.
yeah, yeah,
But um she was explaining like her experience of being around her ex-husband and her friends and growing up. It was very diverse as far as race and ethnicity goes and culture. So whenever she does want to bring something into the book like Talia, it's not too far off to be able
yeah,
to be like, oh, I would like to show this experience. And if I need to ask someone, I can. Like, I want to be very sensitive about what I'm showing and how I'm portraying it. So like that. I think what you were getting at is like, as a white British person, it's a little bit more hard, and difficult for you to show stories of people of color,
Also,
because
it's not my story to
it's
tell.
not something that you experience. And yeah,
No.
we have
There are other people who can do it far better, so why not stay in my lane sounds a bit reductive, but also at the same time, like there are stories that I really want to talk about.
yeah,
Like there are queer stories and neurodiverse stories. Those I'm really, really passionate. And the intersectionality between queerness, kink, and neurodiversity is what I'm looking at in my PhD.
yeah.
Like there are enough stories there. I don't need to like
Yeah, and, like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and there are some
no.
authors who write people of color, and there are some people of color, authors who write mostly white folks, and it's just kind of like what you're comfortable with, and look, the BIPOC folks that prefer to write white folks because it's palatable and easier to sell, that is a whole nother topic, and it is the truth. I will die on that hill, but
Yeah,
we're not
absolutely.
here to talk about.
Completely understand that. No, but I think there's a lot of discussion about, often a discussion about women who write, straight women who write MM
Amen.
romance.
Mhm.
Um, I am not a straight woman. I have written some MM romances. Like Ralphie is one of my favorite characters. I adore him, little fucking brat that he is. Um, he's getting his own. He's getting a wedding in December. I'm well excited to see what chaos he brings. Um,
All the chaos we
I
love.
I've written MM romances as Ellie Rose, um, but I'm writing MM romances as a woman in a queer community surrounded by queer communities, and I'm writing those queer communities into the books. Every time I have, particularly in Stuffy Hospital London, there are more trans non-binary people who work in the business in that one. In Stuffy Hospital, there are some non-binary characters, but most of them don't work for the business. They are other characters who meet and fall in love. In Stuffy Hospital London, there's a number of them who are trans or non-binary, and that was a conscious decision because I was like, I'm not writing a trans person on their own in a community because my experience is that does happen and it's really isolating. But most of the time, we us queers gravitate together. It's like fucking magnets. All the queers, all the neurodiverse folks, we're just like, thunk, here we are together. Um, and so what I'm writing is a queer experience,
Yeah.
not necessarily just a gay male experience. And it's also, I don't fetishize it. I'm not expecting two men to be a twink and a bear who only have sex in specific positions and like what is lube we want sex like where there have been times where I've seen people say oh no I don't want lube in my in my gay sex scenes like so you literally want them to suffer. Also, I do not understand the number of women who read these books and are livid if a woman turns up. Why are they afraid of pussy? I do not understand it. You have one. Stop being. They're like, oh no. We don't want. It's fucking bullshit. I have thoughts, and I know that a lot of people won't agree with me. And I have friends. Like one of my best friends is a cis woman, but she reads a lot of MM because she's asexual, and she's like, I don't want to read about men or women getting it on. It makes me feel icky. Anything with like femmes getting it on, she's like, I feel icky with it. I can associate with myself, and I'm like, no, thank you, no, not for me. So I completely get that.
Yeah.
And there are people who have come out as trans or non-binary or like queer who are trying on different things. But there is a reason why if I'm if I'm recommended queer MM books specifically, they will always be by queer, openly queer authors. That's not to say that other authors aren't good, they aren't valid. I would never force anyone out into the open. Like that is not something that I would ever do. But I feel more comfortable promoting or like going, oh, this book's amazing. I don't pick up MM books by straight women. I just don't. To be fair, I don't necessarily pick up M books to read by myself generally because You haven't seen it. I have updated my shelves. I have a problem, just for anyone who doesn't know. Like, I have no shelf control. Um,
Allie,
I'm
Allie.
giving 20 books to charity this month.
How many when we had our intervention, way off topic, when we had our intervention, how many books did you give to charity then?
Oh, I didn't give any to charity at that point. Okay, so
Or
for
did you give
those,
away and reduce? You did. A lot of books were pulled off your shelves because you didn't have space. They were on the floor.
oh yeah, but now I have more bookshelves, so it's fine.
Yes, because
I
that
have I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 bookcases. I have a spinny bookcase. I have a spinny bookcase which is filled with gay manga, like sapphic manga. Oh, my life is so good. I have 2 entire shelves which are just sapphic speculative fiction. And I have an entire ottoman, like, all of those things that opens up, like the stool. I have a huge square one that is full of sapphic contemporary romance. I am living my best fucking life. It, it's so
really
gay.
love this for you and hate this for you at the same time.
I have gotten better. The intervention was because I think it was 2022. In 2 weeks, 14 days, I had bought 40 books. I don't do that anymore. I actually am a lot better. I how many books have I bought this month? Maybe 3 or 4,
Okay.
which is significantly, like, that's significantly down. And most of those are pre-orders, so they are conscious decisions. Also, it doesn't help that we're in a book club.
I mean,
This
yes,
does
that
not
that's
help
minimal
because it
12.
means, because not only do we have the book club books that I need to read, but also then people are like, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this. I'm like, well, I need those now, especially as most of the books in the book club are queer and often sapphic. And I'm like, well, I need a sapphic book. Yeah.
Listen, we're expanding. We historical and a gothic romance and YA and
There's been a lot of YA fantasy. There's been a lot of YA
yeah,
fantasy.
I think I don't know, I'll have to look, but I think we cool down on the fantasy
I think we
YA.
have now. Like fantasy, yes, YA fantasy, it depends on the author. Sometimes amazing. That whole I feed it to the beast and the beast in
Oh,
me.
yeah,
Oh, but that's YA horror more than YA fantasy. That was
yeah,
amazing.
but it was
Um
great. Jameson Shea did ooh. Okay, anyway, shelf
so
control.
good. What?
Shelf control.
Shelf control. Yeah, I have none. I have none at all. But like
But I was
I
gonna
have
say,
over 55 tarot and oracle decks. And when I started lockdown, I had 3. But you guys are to blame for some of that because, like, you guys sent me decks,
I
and
mean, I
also
can't
we all egged each other on. Part of me is like, we should do a reading at the end of this. Should I pull out the Wild Unknown?
uh,
And Randy's like, no, I think
I
fucking
don't
not.
need to be dragged on camera on a
Isn't that what
recording.
you're doing to me?
I am doing this to you. That's not the point. we're we're not dragging me. We're dragging you. No, we're learning about you. It's totally fine. But no, yes, I do. What I was getting at was like, um, rather than diversity,
Mm,
disability diversity, we'll
yeah,
focus more on neurodiversity,
yeah.
representation. But the fact that you are very conscious minded of what you want to present and how you go about presenting it, I think is very commendable because there are some people that kind of just write and don't necessarily take into account what they are writing can be harmful. And what I like to discuss on the show is the fact that everyone that I have spoken to this season and beyond are very purposeful in how they present their characters and the situations that they go through and who they are, and it's very strong, and there's a purpose for everything that they're experiencing. It's not just to be like, oh yeah, I want to check this box kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think also, like, there's like an ethical aspect to it. Like, I know that content notes / content warnings / trigger warnings are always a topic of great conversation. Like,
Yeah.
loads of people hate them.
Mm.
I think it's unethical not to use them. Um, which I know is quite a big thing. And the reason for that is like you can I know a number of authors who don't have the content notes in the front of the book. They have a QR code. You scan the QR code, you can get it in the free sample from Amazon, and it takes you to the website, and you can choose to look at the list. Like, I think it's unethical not to give people an option. I always have an author note at the beginning. And it's usually something along the lines of please be aware that this book has references to autistic meltdowns, like trauma, shitty exes, challenge on pain. I hope I have dealt with. I hope I have dealt with these issues with the care that you and the name of the character deserve. Quite basic. Like, I break it down because you never know, and I do genuinely think, like, we haven't really talked a huge amount about. We've talked a bit about kink, but like, as someone who writes kink, one of the things that's really important for me to show in those scenes is discussion. Like the
Mhm.
conversations about what they will and won't do. Like, what are your traffic lights? Like, what are your safe words? What is your non-verbal safing out mechanism? Because if your mouth is otherwise occupied, what are you gonna do? I most of my characters tap out like they're in the WWE. Um, or if tied up, they have something in their hand that they can drop that has like makes
Mm.
a really loud noise. Um, and it has to make a noise because, like, if you've got like thumbs up and your hands are up here, someone's flogging, like they can't
Yeah, they
see.
can't see that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it has to be something that actually makes a physical sound. Um, there are lots of different things. It's really important. But if you're in those scenes, um, you would give people a heads up, going, "Hey, I'm traumatized. This thing like kicks me off," or like, "We're agreeing to do this, that, and the other." I do not understand why you would not give your readers the opportunity to do exactly the same thing. Your readers deserve the opportunity to consent. You
Mhm.
have to give them the information, or you have to give them the option of looking for the information. Some people go, "I have no triggers. I don't care." Absolutely fine. The trigger warnings are the content note is not for you. Then, like, feel free to carry on. And part of the reason is going back to that the book with the car accident in. Like, we had a conversation. Like, you were like, "Oh, I want to read all the things," and I went, "Oh, well, this one has a car accident," and you were like,
Noped right out.
"Yeah." And Corey read it, and I hadn't told them about the car accident, and it was triggering for them, and they did have an episode, and I felt terrible. And yeah, I'm at Smut Lovers in Florida in September. You guys should come; it's gonna be awesome. Um, and I'm doing two things. So me and Eden Bradley. It is wild to me. Eden Bradley wrote the first book I ever read that had bisexual rep in. First time I'd ever saw a woman on page do anything with another woman. And she's now one of my best friends, and I'm rooming with her at Smut Lovers, and I cannot believe it. It's wild to me. But we're doing a talk for the entire conference on terrifying on like negotiation, self safety, and consent. And then on the second day, I am doing a workshop on my own called Writing Ethical Sex. So these are things that I feel really, really strongly about.
Yeah.
Um, it's hard because sometimes those conversations are clumsy, so you've got to work out ways of making it good on page. But like when people, oh, consent, oh, what do you do? Ask if they want to touch you here. Can I touch you here?
Yeah.
Can I touch you there? I'm like, yeah, that can be sexy. Like, also, what is sexy than turning around to someone going, "Tell me what you want me to do to you"? Like, holy shit, that's hot. Like, and then they have to say it, and then you've got that whole vulnerability thing of them going, "Oh, I really want this. I've got to say it." Oh, like that becomes really hot, and that is active, enthusiastic vocal consent to what you were doing. Like, it's really,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the
Anyway,
conversations in the discourse about um, consent and and content warnings, and like the list is long. We see what happens on TikTok or Twitter, and I mean even Instagram. You'll see the conversations
and
unfold.
threads as well. There's some really
Threads,
interesting,
yeah, it's just.
nuanced conversations happening on threads, which I quite like. Some of them are nuanced.
But just to the point that you were like, "Oh, I'm doing a talk on my own." You are a PhD student. You have had a series where you discussed and broke down how books work and what was done in different
Yeah.
books. What do you mean? Let's talk about
Oh,
that a little bit. What is your PhD that you were pursuing for those who don't know?
so I am looking at, it's a creative writing PhD, and I'm looking at romance short stories and the intersection between queerness, kink, and neurodiversity. In relation to feminisms, there's an S on the end there because intersectional feminisms or no feminism at all. Um, Intersectional means here's a little potted history of feminism. Those who don't know, first wave feminism. People were fighting for legal rights. Second wave, people are pushing for social rights. Like just because something's legal doesn't mean that society accepts it. Um, Third wave is when people start going, well, you need to be aware that my experience as a queer woman or a black woman or a trans woman is not the same as you. Like they're, as opposed to a one voice for all women, it's about listening to lots of voices. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at now. Like third wave starts pushing for that kind of thing. And we're not post feminism because Roe versus
No,
Wade.
no, we're
All
not.
I need to say. All I need to say. But like this fourth wave is very much about looking at listening to individual voices. Um, and that's kind of where I'm interested. I'm really interested in this idea of intimate publics. So Lauren Bellant talks about the intimate public, and they use the idea of like women's mass market fiction as a discussion point, not romance specifically, but women's fiction, as this idea that an intimate public is where society has a general idea of it. So a society's general perception of romance is that it's white, it's straight, it's bodice ripping, it's men grabbing women and taking them off on a horse kind of thing. Surprisingly enough, it's very much 80s. It's still, perception is changing, and I will actually credit TikTok for some of that. Like perception of romance is changing in the bigger sphere. I think a big part of that is to do with TikTok. Hatchet, not last year, the year before, actually pointed out that one of the things that has gone up, we have had um, the height of people buying physical books on record is only matched by just after the Second World War, when we had a similar uptake when money wasn't so tight. Really interesting. And like people who actually, the number of people who are going to study to become carpenters and carpentry because they want to build bookcases, this is another thing that has gone up.
Interesting.
Really, yeah, because people are fascinated by having big bookcases. Physical books is a thing that is now sexy again. um which is really interesting. Like one of the things I try and do with my books is I I have some here, is having special editions. So like my Starting Hospital, I have the Sapphic collection and the non-binary collection and the gay collection. Oh, sorry, the blur. And they're all based on the different flags, but they're signing exclusives. I have a Sapphic Fae Sex Club duology coming out this summer. So excited. They're Apples Hung Like Stars, which is a Fae retelling of Tamlin, and Their Fruits Like Honey, which is a retelling of Goblin Market with Fae queens as doms in a sex club called the Golden Apple. Oh yeah. But one of the things I'm doing with those is I am going to have a flip book. So you have first one on this one, and then you spin it over. So it's that. And then
Hmm.
you've got the other one on that side. So both. So people are really interested in like special editions, like the physicality of books. I can't remember what the original question was. Fuck. Um,
Honestly, I don't remember either. Oh, your
oh,
PhD.
PhD, yeah. So
Two
like
squirrel-brained folks.
this is what it's like being this neurodiverse. Fucking wild. Um, so I'm really interested in like the public perceptions of romance. But what my PhD is specifically interested in is counter publics. So how specifically queer, kinky, neurodiverse communities work in tangent with like traditional publishing. Like the traditional perception of romance, like they work in tangent, but they have this big tension. There's this big tension between self-published, indie published, and traditionally published books. um, Not just like the publishing style, but also how the authors market themselves, how how readers find themselves in spaces. Like, traditional publishing is slowly catching up, but it's so fucking slowly. It's so slowly. And it's kind of like, oh, but we have our queer author, or we have our black author, or we have this. We don't need more. And for so long, that was the case, that authors went and made names for themselves. Christina C. Jones is a brilliant example of an indie author who just went and did it on her own. The queer communities, like Lesfic was, and I really, JAE runs a website which is now called I Heart Sapphic. It used to be called I Heart Lesfic, and they changed it to Sapphic because they said Sapphic is more inclusive of all queer women, which fucking love. So cool. But these communities were set up because there wasn't space for them. People weren't interested. And also, like, people are interested in writing shorter stories and reading shorter stories. Like, there is a market, there's a very definite market for a book that you can pick up and read in one go on your lunch break. And some of my stuffy hospital books are perfect for that because they are so short. Is there a lot of plot? No, not always. Sometimes it's just fucking with vibes. And fucking literally with vibes, because queer. Yeah. I go, my tagline is soft characters, big feels, and that what goes both for Ali and Ellie. And the tension of writing a PhD whilst also being a commercial author selling my books has been really interesting, because also there's a part of me that's like, why the fuck am I wasting 50,000 words on a PhD that is not going to pay me anything when I can have that published and get KU page reads on it? I wrote a really gorgeous, I think it's gorgeous, sapphic mermaid retelling that comes out in an anthology in June called The Pull of the Tide. The anthology is called The Pull of the Tide. It's really fun. And I wrote it and thought, this is great. And then I asked my PhD supervisor, and they were like, no, if you publish something, it can't be included in your PhD. And I was like, well, guess this isn't going in my PhD then. This is too fun. Yeah, so it's a tension, like being authentic to myself and who I am, and the journey that I've gone on, because I've been studying for goodness knows how long now. I took a couple of years out because of COVID. Like the queerness, the neurodiversity, like all the journey that I have been. Well, no, it is a literal journey. Growth. Thy name is Ali. Like that I've gone on, and seeing it has completely changed where I am with my PhD. When I started, I was really interested in Hélène Cixous, who is a French feminist, who I discovered when I was first doing university, really interesting stuff. And it wasn't until like a year in that I realized, oh my God, she's a fucking turf. And I turned around to my PhD supervisors and I went, I can't use Cixous. And they're like, what? You're changing your PhD? I was like, yeah, the whole thing. It's changing completely. Can't use Cixous. And they're like, is there any way? I was like, no, she's a turf. I can't use her. Like, full stop. And those kinds of decisions and thinking about how it all works, it's challenging. Is it worth it? I don't know. I think sometimes I wonder whether I should have dropped out, but I think it'll be worth it to be able to call myself Dr. Romance. Like, that's the end goal. At the end of it, like, I want to be done with my PhD so I can get back to the actual stuff I want to do, which is writing and editing romance.
Yeah.
And occasionally teaching on the side.
So before we get to the editing part of what you do, which is a fascinating conversation as well, because it's across the board. But
and I am editing someone's book right now, am I not? Oh, your face. Yes, I am. In fact, there are 2 books of Ray's that I have edited. Uncovering Her Cravings, gorgeous cover by Wolf Sparrow Covers, and also Uncovering Her Hunger. Both are excellent. The 3rd one is also out. I'm currently editing the 4th one or the 5th one. I've edited a lot of these books. Those are the 2 I have in paperback at the moment. And you need to get your ass over to the UK so you can sign them for me. I'm just saying.
It's not an expensive trip. I just gotta order it in.
Sorry, what were you saying before I pimped out your books?
We're gonna play a game.
Shit. Okay. Oh God.
Just
is this where you drag me? Shit.
No, it's a legit fun game. Every week you have to think a little bit, and people are like, "On the spot, I can't think of anything, but I'm sure you'll be fine." Um, because mile a minute brain, in a good way. But I 2 games. First
Okay.
game, um, we're in the middle of the year basically, and I'm
Uh-huh.
just curious what some books that have already come out, or are upcoming that you are excited to read. Um, Super excited. And it could be on book club. It doesn't have to be book club reads though.
Well, I've just finished One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole, and I am obsessed with this book. I can't talk about it too much because Ray has not read it yet.
I would like to point out that I have since read Alyssa Cole's book, One of Us Knows. This was recorded mid-May, so we were still reading it in book club, and we had to the end of May, and I was doing edits and some other stuff for some projects I got coming up. We have now since moved on to our June book, which is Sanctuary of Shadow. Um, it's posted on my social media somewhere if you want to know. I think it's by Aurora Archer, and I'm pretty much done with that too. So just defending myself real quick.
Um,
Oh,
it's uh, it's about a DID system, and one of the authors hasn't fronted for 6 years, and all of a sudden she is shoved to the front. She doesn't know where she is. They're literally turning up at this gothic mansion as a caretaker. And she's going, "What the fuck?" It's queer. It's dark. So good. I mean, Alyssa Cole is like just so good. That book is unreal. I love that. Um, Carmen Lee has a book coming out. Oh, it's just come out now. It definitely will be out by the time, which is the 710 Split. I have the UK cover, which I love. It just arrived yesterday.
it's
Um,
gorgeous.
obviously, we have the latest Ray Shawn book coming out, don't we? Once we finish with edits. Yeah. That one is uncovering
The
her
dream.
dreams. Yes, uncovering her dreams. Thank you. Sorry, so many words. Um, I have so many books, so many books. Those are the ones that are jumping to the top of my head. There are a couple of queer sapphic books that I picked up recently that I'm really excited to read. I put them on my queer sapphic shelf. So we have Hot for Her Bear, which is the first in Ariel Marie's sapphic Bear Shifter series. Ariel Marie is amazing. She is a Black author who writes sapphic books, and her sapphic paranormals are everything. And this one is signed because I met her at Rare last year and it was amazing. I literally turned up and I was like, "Hi, I'm Ali." She's like, "Oh, you're the person who ordered all my books." I was like, "Yes, that's me." Next, we have Trouble in Hades by Arizona Tape. Arizona is lovely, also an author friend of mine, who recently, so this series is like a sapphic retelling of Greek gods. Much lower on the spice scale, but really good, really emotionally satisfying. I really love her books. She was at a signing I was at in March, and I might have bought 3 of her series.
Allie.
I only came back from that signing with 30 books, and considering the signing
Oh,
before it was
great.
80, I am taking that as a win. And this one by Tamara Sheree, just oh my god, the
Oh,
former
yeah.
soldiers. I'm obsessed with this cover.
That
Um,
cover is beautiful. Yeah.
so good. And if people are into daddy books, EJ Frost has just written Daddy 3.0 in her daddy series, which is really good. I think my favorite in that series is Max's Bumble. Um, and those are like hefty, like quite long, intense romantic suspense with lots of daddy kink in, which is excellent. Like she writes it really, really well. There are so many books coming. Is that enough?
Yeah.
I've got more. I have more. If people want
I
more,
thought you too. I was like, this is gotta be like, oh, oh, and oh.
I literally ran to my bookshelf and started grabbing books.
The other thing I wanted to do is one of your books, if you have it nearby.
Yes.
Pick
Okay.
a book. Let me know which book it is.
Uh, do we want to do an Ellie one or an Ellie one?
You're gonna be reading one line from it. So whichever you
You know what? I'm gonna risk it.
choose.
Go for my sapphic stuffy hospital.
Okay.
Right.
Um, and that's an Ellie book. Turn to page 32.
Okay.
Read the first line of dialogue.
I'm sure I don't know. She felt re-energized, like their dialogue was recharging her.
Not that the dialogue was dialoguing.
Dialogue was dialoguing.
I don't I'm sure I don't know. That sounds very
I'm gonna
like
do this. I'm
flirty.
gonna do the same from this book as well, just because I think it would be interesting seeing them completely differently. Oh, I don't think you've ever been to my library before, have you?
Why are they both
Why are they both just me? Oh
very
god.
much the same vibe? I'm sure I don't know.
Sure, I
I
don't
don't
know.
think I don't think you've done what so the point of that was kind of like, okay, so if you have you been in conversations with somebody? Those sound very flirty and like, I'm sure I don't know. What have you had conversations or been in a situation where am I tripping or are those both flirty moments?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, they're both flirty moments. The you haven't been to my library before is less flirty and more like, oh, this is my space. This is the library I work in. Like, come
Okay.
in, let me show you all my books. It's really cute.
So well, we have just been in your library, so obviously you have been in that situation before because you are introducing us to books that you love,
Yeah.
and showing us around. So I suppose that did work. But
I
anyway,
mean, when people come over, I do a like a bookcase by bookcase. I was like, would you like the tour of my books? And I show them because everything's all yeah. I'm
see,
special.
see, I
So,
knew it. I love playing that game because it's always like, okay, so you wrote this dialogue. Have you lived this dialogue in any way?
yes.
And you never know. Like it was, I did a show with Tati Richardson earlier in
Mhm.
the season, and the line was so arbitrary. I think it was something about like I want to show you the local high school or something like that. And I was like,
Oh,
what? I was just like, okay, so maybe this won't work. And then she was like, actually, I asked my daughter not too long ago if she wanted to go. I was like, that's crazy that it actually worked.
yeah. Yeah, no, in this one, it's a bratty moment.
Mhm.
Christy Christy and Dana are so cute. Dana is the postwoman and Christy's the receptionist at Stuffy Hospital. And Christy keeps on pranking Dana with like this tiny little monster, crocheted monster that she has on her desk. And she's like, it's not me, it's Monster. And Dana's like, I don't know. Like she rolls off her shirt sleeves. I don't know, Christy. What do you think Monster could have done? I'm sure I don't know. It's like the most innocent, bratty little like. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
that's
have
how
no
she is.
experience with that whatsoever. No, none.
Uh-huh.
Innocent little angel with halo.
Oh yeah, totally. Allie is such an innocent little angel. But before we close out, I wanted to get to your editing and how you
Mhm.
kind of got into that because we've talked like a little bit if it's come up throughout our chat, but I want to know like what led you to editing and like what your favorite things are as you go through that process because you get to see a book from basically ground zero to when it's almost done.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really lucky. I started years ago. I was an editor at the Pink Heart Society magazine. It's an online web scene that we ran, and it was mainly for Mills and Boon authors. And as I came in, we sort of ended up branching out and getting more and more romance authors in. And one of those authors said to me, "How would you feel about editing a book for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right." That was Barb Han, who does romantic suspense for Harlequin, and she was doing her indies. And I have edited for Barb now for like 5 years. She's an absolute sweetheart, and it was a real journey. Like I used to be an English teacher. Um, I teach. I have taught undergrad creative writing at university. Like just like come in for specialist seminars, usually about writing sex, because me. Um, and I just kind of fell into it and started doing it more and more. And now I edit for you. I've worked with Talia Hibbert, Katie Robert. I do all of Jackie Lau's indie books at the moment, which is amazing because one of my favorite things, I get to do this with Jackie, is I do a developmental edit and then I get to do the line edit, and then you get to see it like at two different stages. That's always so much fun. I've just finished editing, um, dev editing one of the next book in her Weddings with the Mox series, which is phenomenal and also kinkier than I've read from her, and oh, so good. I was like, I am here for this. This is awesome. More of this. Um, Edit queer. So primarily my experiences in editing are romantic suspense, contemporary romance, erotic romance, monster romance, paranormals. I haven't done much sci-fi, a little bit. I've done a little bit of historical, but usually crossed over with paranormals. And I love it. I really like, I think a good way of describing my editing style is both constructive and flailing. Like, oh my god, this moment, I love this moment. This is so good. Or this sentence is perfection. Like that's kind of my vibe when it comes to editing. I really enjoy it. It's made me a better writer. Um, I like to think it helps people when they write. You would be able to say yes or no to that better than most people. I mean, you've come back and used me again, so can't be that bad. Um, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. The aim is to be able to eventually step away from the day job and do a little bit of teaching at the university and then writing and editing. And I know we might get there. We will. No, we are there. Manifesting. Yeah,
Manifestation.
that's good. And I just, it's really good. I mean, at the moment, I'm at a point where I'm trying to juggle my deadlines a little bit, in that I am someone who writes to deadline. You've seen me do this.
Yes, stressing all of us out.
And I'm just like, oh, it's fine.
Alex.
And they're like, no, this needs to be done by tomorrow. I'm like, I'll be fine. So my aim is by this summer to be at a point where I am finishing every book 2 months before the deadline. This is the aim, because I kind of wrote myself into a corner. I've got, I don't know, 60,000 words to write by the end of the month. It's all good. It's fine. It turns out that I can write quickly. But I write quickly.
Wine.
Yeah. I write quickly, but I write authentically. Like, my books are good. I get them edited. I just thrive on the chaos, and I hadn't really planned things out properly. So the next couple of months are a bit wild. I've got 3 books out in May. I've got 4 books out in June. I've got another 3 or 4 out in July. But by the time September comes around, it all calms down, and the aim is to have 1 Ali and 1 Ellie book a month. And Ellie books are always little romances, daddy or mummy kink, and Ali will either be an erotic romance. I had Kink for Halls out last year. I am organising an anthology this year, which we haven't mentioned yet, so it's top secret. But the title of my story in it is a Dyke for Chrysalis, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, heard it first.
I'm really excited. But the big change I'm making is I am going back to my God's Touch universe, which was my first love when it came to writing. And the God's Touch universe is this idea that magic has been leaking back into the world. Like, the gods have all been trapped behind the veil, which keeps them away from the mortal realm. And as the veil starts to fade and magic leaks back into the world, the gods descend and bring fucking chaos with them, as of course they do. So you've got the Freed Hunt series, you've got my Fae Sex Club duology that comes out this summer. I have a trilogy, Don't Nix It Up, Nix and Tell. They're really cute, and they're with river nixes, who are river demons, working with the goddess of the River Arun in Sussex, which is really cool. And Leni Kaufman is doing the covers for those. So that's very exciting. It's very exciting.
I love a Lenny.
Torrance Sine of Wolf Sparrow covers, who did your Uncovering covers, also did my Apples Hung Like Stars, Fruits Like Honey.
Those are
stunning. Oh my god, so good. And I've got some more. So, like, basically you'll have 2, but there'll be 2 books for me every month. Because
before we close, because I need, after that spiel, which I am aware of, and my stress is up here now. You're raising the cortisol levels. Um,
It's fine. It's okay.
self-care. Self-care. How do you try to keep yourself from fully burning out and not doing anything at all? Because like you are always on go mode. But like what are you doing to care for yourself, Allie?
Well, yeah, because I have a full-time day job.
Mhm.
I also do teaching
Mhm.
additionally on top of that at the university. I have my PhD, I do writing, and I edit. Turned out recently that a load of my friends didn't realize I had a day job on top of all the other things. I was like, no, no, I work full time. They're like, how? I was like, I don't know. The answer is I don't keep myself out of burnout. I live in burnout. Burnout is my home.
Oh, I
Uh,
know I said that. I said you're how do you keep yourself from completely burning out?
oh,
I know you're in it. It's like you like the oven. It's hot, but I like it here. Girl, respectfully, disrespectfully.
um,
No, but seriously, how do you take care
I,
of
I've
yourself?
I've gotten a lot better at it. I've gotten better at. I now have an actual timeline. So when people come to me and go, "Hey, I've got this project. Do you want to do it?" I can actually look at my timeline and go, "Actually, no, I don't have time to do that. I said no to a project the other day."
Oh.
Like, and also there's that thing like, shit, if I'm not doing all the projects that people offer me, like those opportunities are going to go away and then my career is going to plummet. There's that constant fear, especially as a self-published author, because you're like, the algorithm is not your friend. Um, but I think making the decision to step away from writing cis guys, like I had two fairly, I say fairly shitty, your face, not very great relations with this guy.
Listen, listen, you know I ain't never held back. We ain't gonna go down that right now. But yes,
I
that's
think actually
fairly sure.
moving away from writing cis guys has actually been an act of self-care.
Yeah.
Um, having some surrounding myself with people who accept me as I am,
Yes.
allowing myself time off. Sometimes it means I get a bit more behind on things, but like if I go and go and go and go and go, I would break.
Mhm.
I did break in March. I had to take a full week off work, which I was mortified about. Um, I had a week off work and then I had a week of annual leave and we went to Paris. It was wonderful. Um, but like making sure that I have time away from this space because I live and I work in the same space pretty much all the time. So I make sure I have a weekend away every month. And that doesn't mean Paris, although sometimes it means Paris. It means things like going to stay with a friend for the weekend.
Mhm.
Even if it's a friend who's like half an hour down the road and going, hey, I'm going to come crash at yours for the weekend and we're going to like watch crappy TV and eat fajitas and like sit in the garden, whatever. Like making sure I have a weekend away every single month is really, really important
Yeah.
um, because otherwise I break. Um, because I thought that taking time off and doing it at home would work and it didn't because it wasn't enough of a physical, like I need a physical, I need to go somewhere else kind of break. Um, having a good girlfriend helps. Like today, she's been like, right, you have your podcast, you have your call, and anything you need doing, you're going to tell me and I will do it for you. And I'm like, no, but I want to, no. So I will do lunch and I will do dinner. I was like, okay, thank you. I love you. Um, trying to give myself a break and having community. Community is the most important thing. Like it's really things have changed so much. Like we met in 2021
Mhm.
during lockdown. Um, and I think I spoke to you guys every day for 2 years.
Yeah, we did.
Like every day for 2 years. We were doing tarot readings every day. Like and it was and then the real world started coming back. And that was an adjustment that I still don't think I've completely made. Um, it's easier now that I'm here in Brighton, which is like the queer capital of the UK. I have a queer community that I've never had an in-person queer community before. I've had friends who have been, but I've never had a queer community.
Yeah.
Having that changed so many things for me. And I still have my online writing community. I have two now because now I've got all the little writers as well, which is awesome. Um, everyone is so different. It's really cool. But with my day job and now being back in the office, like I can't do flexi time as much. Like we're both members of Word Makers. Word Makers, the call every day is from 4 till 6. I technically don't finish work till 5. And even if I start early and finish at 4, I have to get home.
Yeah.
And so I miss so many of like those connections everyone made, like they kind of dissipated a bit. And I think that's one of writing is a really lonely endeavor. And the best thing I could say to anyone who wants to write is find a community, make friends, because non-writers don't get it.
Hmm.
They don't understand the
That's
my my mum, who I adore,
mhm.
uh, says, "Oh yes, I know it's stressful, Lucy, but you choose to do it." And I'm like, I mean, would you say that about any other career? The number of people who assume that this is kind of, it's a bit of a hobby. It's a nice hobby, but it's a bit of a hobby. Um,
For some it is, but for others it's not. It is a career.
I mean, it started as a hobby and I want to make it my career, which means I have to do all the extra stuff. I'm self-published. I'm my own marketing team. I do all my own Ellie covers at the moment. I do the formatting for all my Ellie books. I'm getting Vellum this month. You won't have to like suffer through all the Vellum things that I
I
don't
don't
know my.
mind doing the
I
form.
know, but I want to do the
It
flip
lets
book.
me read the books too.
This is true, actually. But I do actually want to get Vellum and be able to like do things myself and like not be reliant on other. But there's a big thing which is I don't necessarily want to be reliant on other people. Um,
That's
but I think a lot of
we're both
writers.
in therapy about that, I'm sure. So
I once spent an entire day with you. I was making pasta and you were having a crappy
yeah.
day. And we spent the entire day on Zoom while I was like rolling out making handmade pasta.
And it looked so good too. I was jealous. I was
Oh,
like,
was
dang, how
it?
much is a flight again?
It's not that expensive.
Really not. It's not. It's more time
Return,
now because yeah.
return to Florida is 600 quid. Return. Come to the UK. Come stay with me. Just saying.
Look, I gotta work it in because like being back in the office 4 days a week has
Oh,
made it where I can't travel as much. Like I used to go down to Atlanta and visit Carmen Lee and Mika
yeah.
James a lot because I only worked 3 days in the office. So I had those, I had 4 days of travel
Yeah.
and it was a lot of fun. But now it's like I only get to not be in the office one day and then I have the weekend. So it's like so hard to do anything, go anywhere and
Yeah.
take.
I'm only in 2 days a
Oh,
week, which is nicer. But also like people call you. You have to take meetings. It's
it's
very inconvenient.
makes
Very
it so
inconvenient.
hard to have fun and see friends who don't live in the state that you're in or the country that you're
I know, right?
How
Outrageous. How very fucking
very
dare they?
dare these companies? How very fucking dare them? Anyway, it's been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on. I know there was we could talk for hours. Obviously, we've done it before, but thank you so much for coming on. I'm really excited to see what's next for you this year. There's so many things
I've
as
got another 20
per
releases,
alley.
I think, this year.
You said how? What? Why? Whoa. Huh.
But not all of them are full-length books. There's a lot. There are a number of short stories. There are a couple of anthologies. And if you're interested in finding out more about me, if you go to
Yeah.
ellieroseauthor.com,
Are you sure? That was a
thing,
question mark.
that is a question mark. Let me double check what my website is. I should know. Yes, ellieroseauthor.com, obviously, completely, yeah, knew that.
Mhm.
And I have a newsletter there, and the newsletter will talk about both my Ellie and my Ali releases.
Okay.
AliWilliams.org just does my Ali releases.
Okay. What about social?
Yeah,
How can
yeah.
we?
Oh, yeah. I'm on socials. I'm as Ellie Rose Ali Williams on Facebook. I am CL Aficionado on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, and TikTok. Yes, yes. I mean, occasionally on TikTok, not very often. If you want to follow me, be aware that I am political and I talk about politics because we don't live in a vacuum. And also up the fucking revolution. Eat the rich, unless I'm rich, in which case please don't eat me. Unless, no, separate conversation. We both went the same place. Um,
Mhm.
Details of my editing work is on my alliewilliams.org site. If you're interested, just message me. But in general, like, yeah, I'm a fairly friendly soul. I chat
Yeah.
to most people. Yeah, like I said, I've got I think 20 releases out this year. It's gone up a bit since I last spoke to you, but I've got a spreadsheet, so it's all fine now. Um,
Uh-huh.
we're not going to talk about how many of those are finished yet because
I love you, Allie. I love you, Allie. I love you, Allie. Let me chant.
you have to be nice to me. I'm still editing your book, so
Darn it. Okay. Oh.
oh, thank you
No, I'm
so much
being
for having
all
me on, Ray. This has been utterly lovely.
It
Oh,
has.
there's more.
There's one other thing.
Oh
You had
yes.
mentioned that you were going to be in Florida. So are there any other in-person events in the UK or in the States that you can discuss so folks can come talk to you and you can chat their
Yes, please do. My girlfriend will be there as well, like carrying books around, and she's going to get a waistcoat going anyways. Yeah, I was just like, yes, that's adorable. So I'm going to be at Smut Lovers in Florida in September, around the 22nd of September. I'm going to be in Shrewsbury in the UK at Authors Behind Bars in November. And then in 2025, I currently have 2 signings lined up. Dirty Daddies do Vegas in
home.
March in Las Vegas, which is going to be amazing. It's like a 5-day conference. There's going to be talks, there's going to be signings, there are going to be parties. Oh, the parties. It's going to be so good.
It's Vegas.
Um,
Gotta have party.
and also Belfast Books and Ball Gowns, which is a book signing and a fantasy ball in Belfast, Northern Ireland in June 2025. All of those should be on my website. I will make sure they are on my Ellie website. I will make sure it's updated. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. Come. I'm a friendly soul. Come say hi. I will have books and stuffies and pronoun badges on all my signing tables because that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
It is. It is very much you. Oh my gosh, Allie, it was so great. Thank you for being here as Allie and Ellie and talking about your craft and how everything has come to fruition.
And thank you. I love this. I love this podcast. Like you guys have really interesting conversations. You're an excellent, the best of eggs. Bon oeuf, Ray. Really, really are a great writer. Go Uncovering Her Dreams should be out now by the time this releases. So go buy it and read it. It's good. I'm working on it. It's really, really good. There's very little work that needs doing at all. It's like I'm just reading through it and barely making any notes. You're an awesome soul and like an excellent friend.
Thank
I'm
you.
very, very glad to have you in my writing life, my reading book club, and my personal life. You're an excellent soul.
Thank you. And thank you for closing out this season for me right before my birthday.
In the gay month,
In
yay!
the gay market.
On brand, so gay.
No, like seriously, it was a pleasure and you are a sweet person. So I'm glad that I could close out with you talking about you and your books and your passion and everything in between. So
So much.
um until next season,
Until
which
next
I'll
season.
announce eventually. It's
So
been
excited. On tender hooks already.
I have a couple people lined up already. I'm really excited. So I'm
I
not
mean, I do think that we should have a book club, um, Ray's
Ooh.
Corner. Because most of the people in
Yeah.
our book club are also authors. So Carmen Lee, Mika James, D.A. Williams, who is an editor and
And on
agent,
books and
uh, you, um, and another person who we adore, whose pen name, I'm not sure which pen name is the right pen name to use, so I'm not going to use any.
lovely human. Yeah,
Oh.
it's a nice little diverse I mean we're mostly black, but there's other backgrounds and
And then there's me, the white Brit. They call me spicy Italian. I am half Italian, and I season my
you're
food.
spicy
Chicken
white.
should never be. I mean, salt and pepper are not spices. I just want to make that very fucking clear. Not spices. I was home this weekend and my dad was like cooking chicken for the fajitas and he didn't add the spices to the chicken. He just cooked the chicken on its own and added the spices later. And me and my brother were like, let's try and like sneak in smoked paprika and cayenne and shit. I mean, it tasted really nice, but like the chicken was chicken was white. And me and John both looked at it and went, oh, cool.
The gasp that I want to gasp.
Like even if you've got a sauce already done, like you can season the chicken a little bit before you add the sauce. So like I did a curry the other day, we already had sauce put aside, but I still like garlic and ginger as the base with the oil before like cooking chicken. So there's some flavor to the chicken before adding all the sauce to it. But like no, there was nothing. There was no salt. There was no pepper. It was just white chicken in a pan.
No, no, no. I
I
can't.
don't do this. That's why they call me spicy white because I actually add spices.
Yeah, I can't eat like spicy food, so no cayenne pepper for me, but like there are plenty of seasonings that you can put on your chicken.
Fucking herbs. Like herbs are there, right there. There's a whole drawer of them, but no, no. I
Yeah.
think it's because the thing we get sort of says cook the chicken first, then add the onions and the peppers and the seasoning at that point. And so my dad, being very likely undiagnosed neurodiverse, which he would not agree to, please let him not be watching this. Follows the rules because the rule says to do this thing, so he does the thing. Like he usually would season stuff, but like yeah, we were like, we're gonna take the chicken out. Like when he was off down the end of the gardens prepping like barbecue stuff, we were like, right, we're gonna like add stuff to the chicken and like sneak things.
Oh my goodness. That okay. I get following directions. I read a recipe and I'm like, it does not tell me anything about seasoning on here. Who wrote this? Never mind. I know. Let me add my seasoning as I
I'm
go.
sorry, I don't own any cookery books that do not have seasoning in. Like, what fucking madness is that?
I'm
No.
like,
Like you can do like if you want like not a spiced chicken, fine. But then you use like lemon or just herbs. Herbs add flavor. Like a roast chicken with herbs and lemon, delicious, wonderful. We're here for it. But nothing? Unacceptable. Unacceptable, Ray. Unacceptable.
now I'm hungry.
That's all right. My girlfriend's about to make me dinner, so I'll be fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
And we are having roast chicken with lemon and herbs.
You know what? I'm gonna make some shrimp stir fry.
Oh yes. We've got teriyaki stir fry for later this week as well. Oh, I'm
I'm
really making myself hungry.
yeah, now I'm really hungry and I oof. Okay. Anywho, thank you, Allie, again for real this time. Thank you for coming on. Thank
Been
you for
lovely.
off the season
I've had
and
the best time.
yes.
Yeah. And make sure you're following Ray on all the platforms and come find me at Ellie Rose, EllieRoseAuthor.com.
Yes. Until next time, it's been Ray's Corner. Bye.